The excerpt of Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin that I'll be teaching you today contains 5 different chords that you'll play with your left hand and a very simple melody that you'll play with your right hand. You can download the free specialized sheet music of Cats in the Cradle by clicking on the link directly below this video player. If you've already printed out the sheet music, then let's get started. Now, you may have noticed that the music looks very elementary. But I promise you, this is all you'll need to create a professional, full-sounding piano arrangement. It's very easy to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it in this short 10-minute video lesson. So if you're ready, let's start with the right-hand melody. Okay, here's middle C. We're going to start with our thumb on that F directly above middle C. Now there are basically 2 different hand positions for the right hand melody. If you get your thumb on the F and you cover the G, the A flat, the B flat, and the C, this would be the F minor 5-finger position. This will actually get us, if you keep your hand in this position, this will get us through the first 3 lines of the melody and that first measure of line 4. So basically the only fingering you have to mark is a 1 underneath that first melody note, and if you keep your hand in this position, you'll be able to play the first 3 lines and the first measure of line 4. So here we go. I'm going to do it nice and slow. Okay, I am now on the second measure of line 4. It's the C minor measure. It's the measure with the C minor chord directly above the melody. So I'm getting ready to play that G, so I'm going to use my second finger. I'm going to go 2, 1, and then on that E flat, I'm going to bring my third finger over. I'm going to play that. Now I'm going to bring my hand around. So that's going to put my thumb on middle C, and I'm now in what's called the 5-finger position for C minor. So C, D, E flat, F, and G. Now I can play through the rest of the song without having to move my hand out of this position. So here we go. So my second finger is on that G. Okay, that is the right hand melody to Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin. Replay this part as many times as necessary. Take your time. When you feel comfortable with this part, move on to the next part where I will show you the left hand chords to Cats in the Cradle. Okay, here's middle C. Our first chord is the F chord, so we're going to go down to the F directly below middle C with our left hand pinky, and our F chord is F, A, and C. It's a good idea if you're real new to chords, directly above the chord symbols. The chord symbols are always going to be right above the melody. So our first chord there in measure 2 is the F chord. So it's a good idea to write these notes in, especially if you're real new at this. So our F chord is F, A, and C. A good fingering would be pinky, middle finger, and thumb. A good alternative would be your ring finger, your pointer, and our next chord is the A flat major. Okay, this is a little bit of a challenging chord if you're real new at this. We want A flat, C, and E flat. Okay, so that the middle note of the chord is middle C. So A flat. A flat is just taking the regular A or A natural and lowering it a half step. Okay, there's our C. And E flat would be just find the E. and lower it to that next closest black key. So we have A flat, C, and E flat. Now we're going to move up one to our B flat chord. So here's our B. We're just going to lower that a half step. There's a B flat, a D, and an F. Okay. A good fingering for that would be fourth finger on the B flat, pointer on the D, and thumb on the F. That's just a little more comfortable than 5, 3, 1. Although that will work, your ring, pointer, and thumb is probably going to be a little bit more comfortable. Okay, line 4. We have an E flat chord, so find the E and just lower it a half step. There's our E flat. We have a G and a B flat. Just find the B and lower it a half step. So 2 black keys and a white key. So E flat, G, and B flat. Alright, we're going to move left down to the C minor chord. So a C minor chord is C, E flat. Once again, just find the E, lower it a half step, and a G. That's your C minor chord. Okay, now the next chord is an A flat, but we can't play the one that we did up here because we're going to collide with the right hand melody. Now, this will actually be pretty easy to play. So if the chord before that A flat chord is a C minor chord, what we're going to do is we're going to invert the A flat chord. So basically what we're going to do, we're just going to play the notes in a different order. So the quick way to do this, if you got your C minor chord, if you just kind of slide your hand up a little bit, all we're going to do is take the G and move it up to the A flat. This is what's called an inverted A flat chord. We're just playing the notes in a different order. So from left to right, it's a good idea to write these in above the chord symbols. So left to right, we want a C, an E flat, and an A flat. That's our inverted A flat chord. And the best way to do it, the best way to think of it is, there's our C minor chord. To go to the inverted A flat, you're just going to move the G up to the A flat. Now the next chord's the C minor, so once again all you got to do is move the A flat back to the G. So C minor, A flat, C minor. Alright, we are on the last line. We have that F major chord. Once again, we have to invert this one because if we play the F chord there, we're going to collide with one of the melody notes there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the C, that's the note we're going to collide with, and we're going to take it and put it on the bottom. So left to right, we want C, F, and A. A good fingering is pinky, pointer, and thumb. Now you'll notice I'm moving my fingers out of the way. I wouldn't suggest playing it like that. You always want all your fingers on top of the keyboard. I'm just kind of moving them out of the way so you get a better view of the chord. So there's our inverted F chord. The next chord we have to use the inverted A flat again. So your pinky's going to stay on the C, and the next 2 notes are going to be the E flat and the A flat. Okay, this is the same inverted A flat that we did in the line above. So here's our inverted F. Your pinky's going to stay on the C, just slide up. You're going to get the E flat with your 3rd finger and the A flat with your thumb. Okay, next to last chord is the C minor. Just lower your thumb to the G, C, E flat, and G. And then the last chord, you can either do it inverted or you can play it in its normal root position. The melody note's all the way up here, so you won't have any collision problems. Okay, they are the left-hand chords to Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin. Take your time with this. Replay this portion of the video as many times as necessary. When you feel comfortable with the right-hand melody and the left-hand chords, move on to the next part, and I will show you how to play both hands together. Okay, the rule of thumb when playing both hands together is you always want to play a chord at the beginning of every single measure. Now the only exception here is that first measure You have that one F melody note all by itself. But measure 2, as you get ready to play that F again, you're going to notice the F chord symbol is directly above it. So that tells you to play both hands together. Now, there are no other chords in that measure, so you're going to keep the F chord held down. Now it's kind of dying out here, but you want to play that together. Keep the chord held down. Play the rest of the notes in that measure. Now we're on the last measure of line 1. So you'll notice the B flat in the right hand is going to line up with the A flat chord. Remember, the chord symbols are always going to be above the melody line. So they get played together, and we just play the rest of the notes in that measure. Okay, line 2. We have a B flat in the right hand. That's going to line up with the B flat chord. And there are no other chords, so you just play all those melody notes and keep the chord held down. Okay, next 2 measures. The C in the right hand lines up with the F chord. Okay, last measure of line 2. Okay, we are now at line 3. The B flat in the right hand gets played with the A flat chord. B flat chord. F chord. Okay, 4th line, we have the E flat chord in the left hand. That lines up with the G in the right hand. Notice I kept the chord down the whole time. Okay, we're going to switch to the C minor. That lines up with the G. Alright, here comes our inverted A flat chord. That lines up with the E flat in the right hand. Alright, here's our first chord change in the middle of a measure. So the C minor lines up with the G. Okay, last line, here comes our inverted F chord. So we want C, F, and A. That lines up with the F in the right hand. Okay, here's another measure with 2 chords. So the A flat with the E flat. C minor gets played with the G. And then the last chord of the song, the F lines up with the F in the right hand. Okay, that is Cats in the Cradle, both hands together. Once again, take your time with this, have fun. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. My name is Guy Fawkes, and this is EasyChordPianoLessons.com.